Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, speaking to you from the pulpit of the congregation on the subject of the biblical Joseph and the, quote, Matzahball. These are different models of Jewish adaptation. If you practice the spiritual discipline of immersing yourself in our religion's weekly Torah biblical reading, you will be regularly amazed at how it illuminates the events of your own personal life and the life of the community. Here's how this happened to me just this past week. Yesterday, I was in a local Barnes & Noble bookstore. I overheard two store employees discussing the store's Hanukkah book display. The junior employee asked her supervisor when Hanukkah had ended, with the intention of taking down the display. The supervisor gave an incorrect answer. I could have held silent, but the helpful rabbi answering service inside of me took over. I explained that Hanukkah begins at sundown and ends at sundown 8 full days later, such that the holiday had concluded on Monday at dusk, just a day ago. This took place on a Tuesday afternoon. Then the younger employee pointed to a book and said strong words, "This is an abomination." My interest was piqued. Seeing that I sounded like an authority on matters Jewish, the supervisor said to me, "Is that true? Is this an abomination?" I looked at the book. It is a romance just published about a Jewish author of romance novels who draws her inspiration from a Jewish social gathering taking place on Christmas Eve and called the Matzahball. Disclaimer, I am not reviewing the novel here, but speaking about the social event from the lens of Jewish concerns. It turns out that the junior employee had erroneously thought that the Matzahball novel is about Passover, when we eat matzah, and would therefore be inappropriate for a Hanukkah display. Although, frankly, the word abomination is a bit strong for that circumstance. I explained to the supervisor that Matzahball means, in this case, a party that takes place on December 24th. If you go to the Matzahball website, you will see that it began in the 1980s and that it has become an annual event in many cities across the country. I said to her that I certainly wouldn't call the book an abomination and that it was suitable for her store's Hanukkah display. But there's more. The truth is, I am ambivalent about the institution of a Jewish get-together on Christmas Eve. I used to assess it more negatively, but I have become more accepting. When I first encountered it 25 years ago, my reaction was, why do Jews need to celebrate on Christmas Eve? Why does that day have to be important to Jews? Where's the self-respect? We have our own calendar of holidays. Why not celebrate on Purim or Simchat Torah or the last night of Hanukkah, whenever that happens to fall in December? Why December 24th? Why fix the date with a reference to the majority's calendar rather than our own? I must confess, I still feel that way to a point, but another feeling coexists with it. The sense that Jews can adapt a norm of society once it has moved beyond the particular province of another religion to become a semi-secularized or national institution. Christmas in America spans a range, including purely Christian and more generally national aspects. The loyal Jew in me sees the core of the holiday that starts on the evening of December 24th as religious, someone else's religion. But I recognize that Christmas means different things to different people. If I were single, I might have a different perspective. As it stands, I'm not drawn to Matzahballs of the social variety. That is, the soup dumpling gets my total approval. But I am not inclined these days to criticize those people who use it as an opportunity to make and strengthen their Jewish connections. We are, after all, a minority, and our marginal status is made quite clear, even painfully clear, at Christmas time. The Matzahball is not an expression of deep Jewish living, but it does respond to a sense of wanting to be part of Jewish community on the part of brothers and sisters living in our country. Now, this is what leads us back to the Torah reading for this week. In this reading, Joseph, the vizier of Egypt, coaches his brothers and his father what to say to the Pharaoh when they are granted an audience. He structures the discussion so that Pharaoh will hear that the children of Israel are shepherds. The Pharaoh will then assign them a district far away from the heart of Nile Valley civilization. That will minimize the natural tension between shepherds and farmers who have incompatible desires about how to use land. But it will also guarantee the cohesiveness of the young community living in a foreign land for the first time. Joseph's answer, then, is to achieve a measure of residential segregation for his family. That may not appeal to us because of the negative connotation of segregation. But on the other hand, many of us are nostalgic for the Jewish neighborhoods of our childhood, where the aromas of the coming Shabbat scented the air for blocks and blocks every Friday, where the public institutions of Jewish life were in full view: kosher butchers and bakers, vendors of Jewish ceremonial items, bookstores catering to Jewish readers and to students. Jewish establishments of all kinds were the building blocks of Jewish life for our urban grandparents in New York's Lower East Side and in Boston's Old North End and so many other cities. To give a conceptual clarity to what we need today, let's learn to distinguish between two words: assimilation and acculturation. Assimilation means losing oneself in the majority culture. Acculturation means adapting that which can work for us coming from the general society, but which can play a role for us in our minority community. Assimilation means the end of a distinctively Jewish life for those who practice it within 2 or 3 generations. Acculturation will mean change, but also an adherence to core values and leading practices that stabilize Jewish identity. Will you have Jewish grandchildren? If your model is assimilation, the likelier answer is no. If the life you are living is on the model of acculturation, while there are never any guarantees in an open society, the odds are better. To my Christian neighbors, I wish a warm and beautiful holiday season. To my fellow Jews, I wish a renewal of self-respect and pride, coupled with good neighborliness. May the light of Torah help us now that the light of the Hanukkah candles has been concluded. Shalom.